Hello, my name is John Rusk. I'm co-founder of ProSentry, and today we'll talk about the opportunities created by implementing Local Law 157. So it all started with the Harlem explosion in 2014, which killed 8, followed by the East Village gas explosion in 2015, which killed 2 and injured 20. The following year, New York City passed Local Law 157, which stated that once there was a national standard for natural gas detection, the DOB had 180 days to issue a rule. That standard was published in 2023 by the National Fire Prevention Association, and the final rule was then put into place this February 2024. It requires that a natural gas detector is installed within 1 foot of the ceiling or on the ceiling, within 10 feet horizontally from the appliance, and no less than 3 feet. Now, what specification and testing must the devices meet? The alarm must be labeled by UL or ETL, which is nationally recognized testing agencies, that it was tested and conforms with UL specification 1484, not just complies. Otherwise, it does not meet the code. Now, it must be installed by May 1st of 2025. Now, fines haven't been announced, but as this is life safety, most buildings plan to comply on time. Now we come down to the questions, really, what options does a building have? They can do a plug-in unmonitored device, a basic battery unmonitored device, or a smart battery monitored device. For the plug-in unmonitored device, it has an initial device purchase price that is low. However, it requires that an electrician install an outlet because there's no outlet up there within a foot of the ceiling. The units only last 5 years, and you have to replace the 9-volt backup battery every 6 months. For the battery unmonitored device, well, it's got low installation costs because you just put a screw or a nail and hang it up there, and there's no monitoring cost. But it won't notify the building staff, which means it risks a gas shutdown, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. And then finally, the battery monitored device. That has a low installation cost as well, but it notifies staff immediately of a gas leak. So let's compare unmonitored and monitored gas detectors. So for the unmonitored gas detectors, within 1 second, they alert that there's a gas leak. And what it basically announces from the device is a risk of gas explosion has been detected, evacuate immediately, and call 911. So it's relying on the tenants to call 911. And once the fire department gets there, they need to go to where the gas leak is. Now, if in the 911 call that was reported, great. The fire department knows where to go to. They can turn off the gas, open the window. That's fine. But if that apartment wasn't relayed to 911 and the super doesn't know where that gas leak is, the fire department needs to begin moving through the building, trying to find where the gas leak is before the gas behind the door builds up enough that it's explosive. Right now, the fire department may budget 20 minutes or so before they fear that the gas is built up enough to explode. And that's before they just turn off the gas to the building. In the future, after May of 2025, that risk may be higher. The utility will turn the gas to the building back on, provided it passes a pressure test. So you have to hire a plumber who then pulls a permit, pulls every appliance away from the wall, caps the pipes, and then pressurizes the pipes to 600% of their normal pressure, and then prove to a plumbing inspector that the needle doesn't lower at all. In fact, the needle almost always goes down, meaning that the gas service to the building is locked off until the building has typically been repiped and goes months without gas. The other risk of unmonitored gas detection is that the alarm goes off within 1 second, but there's no one to hear it. No one is in that corner of the building. For 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, the gas is building up until finally someone goes to the super, says, "Hey, I hear an alert." He goes upstairs, searches around for a while, finally finds the apartment, and then the unimaginable happens. For monitored gas detectors, the alarm goes off in 1 second. However, it's notifying the central station, which means within 15 seconds, the super has a text, and within less than a minute, there's a live operator to the call, and it can be in English or turning over to Spanish to tell them that the gas leak just started. It's at 10% of what it would take to explode, and it's at the stove in apartment 21J. Armed with that knowledge, the super is then safe to know he can go upstairs, open the door, turn off the stove, open the window, and then go back downstairs a hero to meet the fire department. The leak has been addressed immediately. There's no repiping costs and no months without gas. So this is a cost comparison spreadsheet for the costs over 10 years for these various gas detectors, because it's a little complex to consider. So one question is whether the building has a doorman or not, how many stoves it has, how many gas dryers, how many other gas appliances, how many floors. Now, in this example, we have listed a 50-unit building, and we've said that they've decided to use sensors for both gas and water, so that drives down the cost for the gas sensing. And we've said that per year, there is a 5% chance that there could be a natural gas leak detected without the knowledge going to the fire department, so they shut off the gas and the building has to repipe. So this is a 5% risk per year in this scenario, and we'll show a couple more scenarios. So the plug-in unmonitored device, the initial device costs are $55. The total device costs for the building are $6,270, but you have to install that outlet, and you have the power and battery replacement over the course of the 10 years. That adds up. So you end up with an investment over 10 years of $27,542. For the unmonitored battery device, $79. Total device costs for the building are $4,500, and that's all you're going to pay for the year. And then the battery monitored devices, now those have an individual device cost, and this isn't the lowest cost, depending on volume, of $219. So that means a total device cost for the building of $12,000. Network costs are another $2,700. The subscription costs for the gas detectors are $6,800. So that's a total 10-year cost of $22,000. So it seems like it's a no-brainer. $4,500 versus $22,000. But you have to consider the risk of a potential gas shutdown into the equation. So for this particular building, I've talked it over with one of New York City's prominent building plumbers, and he figures the cost for the permit and the testing is about $20,000. Repiping for this 50-unit building is about $1 million, and temporary boiler is going to be about $50,000. So that's $1,070,000. Now at 5% per year for 10 years, that means over 10 years, you have a 50% chance of a gas shutdown now that gas detection is in every apartment, which means that the total cost for 10 years for the plug-in unmonitored device is $562,000. The battery unmonitored is $539,000. And now the battery monitored device becomes a real bargain at $22,000. And this doesn't even calculate for the potential costs of an explosion or death. So let's say, okay, 5% risk is too high. Let's go down to a 2% risk. At a 2% risk, it's still a $218,000 cost anticipated over 10 years versus the battery monitored of $22,000. And even when you go down to 0.2% risk, you're still a better deal to be a monitored device than a battery unmonitored device. And that's why for a building, even as they say, we're strapped for cash, we don't want to go with this battery monitored, we're really much more comfortable saving our money. You have to take a look at the 10-year costs. And suddenly the battery monitored device is by far the most economical and the most safe. And better for telling your super, we are taking care of you because we're going to want you to go turn off that gas leak, but we're going to give you the tools by telling you exactly where it is that the gas leak just started and what its percent of potential explosion. So that same system works for water too. Non-weather related water leaks are the number one source of insurance claims in New York. The average loss in New York City is $54,000 and 3 months of displacement. This is according to Chubb Insurance. So this is how it works. Again, for our water leak sensors, they go wherever there might be a leak. So in this case, they go underneath washing machines, behind toilets, underneath sinks, with a rope around air conditioning equipment. Those are then connected to a gateway, which goes every 2 or 3 floors in the building's stairwells or communication closets. And it connects using a signal called Long Range Wide Area Network, or LoRaWAN. It's incredibly energy efficient, and that's why all of our sensors have 10-year battery lives. They communicate to the gateway every 6 hours to say, I'm still here, and this is the temperature, and this is my battery life. So there's no annoying chirping at the end of its battery life. You get notified once the battery's going down. But as soon as there is an event, there's real-time detection, it springs to life, it notifies the gateway, meaning texts and app alerts within 15 seconds, a live operator call within about a minute, which means there can be targeted action right away while the problem is still small. And it's not just water and gas. We have a complete risk mitigation system, and we're happy to bring this into the building whenever they want it. It's fully modular, so you can start with gas, and 2 years from now, because your insurance company is now requiring a water leak detection system, you can add the water leak detectors. And we're seeing that more and more. The insurance companies, especially if a building has had a water leak, the only way they can get renewed insurance or renewed insurance at a reasonable premium is by putting in a point of leak water leak detection system. Insurance companies also offer tenants discounts if the building has a water leak detection system. So we have detectors for water leaks, for temperature and humidity. So for instance, where we had a cold snap 2 years ago, as soon as it would have been below 50 degrees in an apartment, we'd call the front desk to the building, say apartment 21J is at 50 degrees. They'd go, oh my goodness, they just left for Florida. Jimmy, go upstairs, turn on the radiator, close the window, no freeze, no broken pipes. We have sensors for natural gas leaks, for exhaust fan operation, instead of noting that all of your showers are molding. We can tell you if a boiler has gone cold and even call your boiler maintenance company. We can tell you if someone has propped a door ajar in order to steal Amazon packages. We can tell you if a roof or terrace drain has gotten clogged during a storm and is beginning to back up water. We can tell you if your sump pump motor has failed and your sump pit water levels are rising. We can tell you if your trash or your trash chute is backing up. We can tell you if there's a heating oil leak. We can tell you if your steam trap is stuck open. We have highly effective mouse traps. We have automatic and remote water shutoff valves from 3/4 inch all the way to 10 inch. So even for your building's penthouse where you need to go in there to turn off valves for building shutdowns, now you can do it remotely or tied automatically to a leak. Coming out, we're having smoking and vaping sensors for both THC and tobacco, and water usage metering, which can both tell you if a toilet flapper is stuck open, but also can meter for water usage in apartments, increasing the net operating income for owner-operators. Now, the manufacturer standard costs for ProSentry's sensors and service: for the unmonitored gas sensors, $95 a unit. For the monitored gas sensors, about $249 a unit. The network is approximately $200 per floor, and the water leak sensors are $70 per sensor. Volume discounts apply. For their 24/7 live operator and dashboard, if it's just gas sensors alone in a small building, it might be $3 a sensor. The cost goes down as you get bigger buildings, or if you add in water sensors, and then it becomes $1 a sensor and a one-time building setup fee of $1,300. ProSentry, we are risk mitigation as a service. Please reach out to us. Thank you very much for your attention.